question, it's a big question. Can leaders change? Can people change? Most people will answer no. You are who you are, you cannot change. So over the next few minutes, what I plan to do is share my personal journey changing as a leader, and then taking what worked there, building programs, and ultimately changing an entire company. And what I hope to give you is evidence, proof, that the answer to this question is a resounding yes. Leaders can change. And what I hope to do with just a brief amount of time is to inspire some action, inspire change. So, let's see if I can get this to work. A year and a half ago, I had the fortune of sitting at a roundtable discussion. And the topic of the table, the discussion was exactly this: can leaders change? Big table, 17 different people. 17 leaders that range from the woman who opened 19 offices for Google internationally, the individual who was a provost of San Diego, the individual who opened the most churches in the world, the board member of NBC Universal. It was the who's who list. I was the most junior, the most uncomfortable in that table of 17. Everybody asked each other the question of, can leaders change? Within seconds, 16 people said, absolutely not. Leaders are who they are, they cannot change. I raised my hand. I said, I disagree. Leaders can change, and I want to share with you a story. And this is the story I shared with them. So, around 2+ years ago, a little more than 2 years ago, I was invited to a very special offsite. It was a retreat that was managed by a guy named Simon Sinek. If you haven't seen Simon Sinek, he's given a TED Talk in 2010, something about inspiring action, leaders inspiring action. And it has become the #2 or #3 most watched TED Talk of all time. Over 18 million views, and most of it is actually shown in corporate training centers, so you can probably multiply 50 to 100 to that number. It is arguably the most watched TED Talk out there. And so Simon is someone I had the fortune of meeting over time, and he invited me to this retreat called Massive. It's only for 15 people, 15. Change makers of the world coming together to discuss the challenges, the struggles that as pioneers you would face. And this offsite, it's a 3-day offsite in Aspen. They pay for everything. It was my first experience flying a private jet, which is why we have this corny picture. There's Simon in the middle, myself, and another individual. And the offsite literally starts as you get onto the jet. So this offsite, you cover quite a bit in the 3 days. This is me swallowing fire. So we talk about facing your fear. And it's amazing the kind of exercise we go through, but a day and a half into the offsite, Friday afternoon, I pulled Simon aside and I said, I want to go home. I'm missing time with my family. I miss my best friend, my son. He's 3 years old. And as great as Aspen is, as great as a vacation is like this, and private jets and all the meals, I'm not having a good time. I came here to meet 14 other people who would be open, real, talk about the realities, how tough it is to drive change. And instead, all we're doing is stroking each other's egos. It's a chest-beating competition of greatness and great this, and nothing about what is real. And so, as I said this to Simon, Simon pulled me aside and said, Charlie, I'm hosting this event. Someone is paying for all this. I feel bad saying that myself, but I felt the exact same way. Do you mind speaking up and putting a lightning bolt under everyone's ass? So I was like, glad to do it, because otherwise I'm just going to go home anyways. So before I go back into the retreat, this is directly after lunch, out of pure anger and frustration for the last day and a half that I spent, I typed up an email on my phone, and I fired it off to 200 employees in my company. And this email that I fired off on Friday, right at a little afternoon, to team everyone, I'm just going to read to you really quick. Update from Aspen offsite with Simon Sinek. As I sit here surrounded by 15 of the most inspiring people on this planet, many ideas and thoughts on how we can adopt great things into our company, into our families, I want to share a personal struggle with both this trip and something I made a big mistake on this week, not being there for my son Jackson. Next jumpers, we trust you to take care of us like we take care of you. Always, always speak up if you have a child's graduation, important family event that is coming up. We want to do everything we can to support you and make certain that you make this important meeting. We built a company where everyone matters, and we watch each other's back. That is the only way this will work, when we help each other out, when we help each other fill in the little gaps to you that is a big gap for someone else. I missed my son Jackson's soccer graduation this past Wednesday because I had set up calls with Jeffrey's bankers. See below, picture of his graduation and more importantly, what happened. And this is the note my wife sent me. Guess at soccer graduation, Lennox, who's the kid sitting behind my son, was right in the middle. Jackson's best friend, his dad Lee was there. Made Jackson really sad. He sat on Lee's lap the whole time. They had to bring the medal to him. My wife wrote me as I left her house Thursday, 5 a.m. for massive offsite with Simon. Jackson was sad this morning when I told him you were on a trip. He responded, he went without me? I'm so sad. Maybe when you get a chance, you can call and speak to him. So I fired off this email to every employee in the company at NextJump at around 12:30. And there's a common misnomer out there that when a CEO sends emails to its employees, that everyone must be responding, so nobody responds. And so the reality is when a CEO sends an email to team everyone, you get no response. So I go back in to the offsite, and I ruffle up the entire place, how we're not being real, the real challenges, and that day ended with a very raw feeling. Everyone felt like this guy, Charlie Kim, came here and ruined this entire gorgeous Aspen offsite. And we all went to bed very raw and uncertain what would come out. That evening, as I went back into my room, I had 99 email responses to the one I sent. And I'm just going to read you some of the responses I got back from our employees. Charlie, thanks for sharing your story. As Greg mentioned over the phone to me earlier with regards to health and wellness, our CEO just gets it. Not many, if any, other CEOs do. I feel you're a role model for all parents in the company. I know Jackson is very lucky to have a dad who cares as much as you do, and we are all lucky to have your leadership. Another person wrote, this is a great email you sent. Totally humanizes you, and will make it so people feel it's okay, even encouraged, to voice when they have these needs. Another person wrote, I love and hate this email. I empathize. Sorry you missed graduation. I forwarded the email to my wife. I forwarded it to actually our caretaker, someone Dolma, who's from Nepal. And Dolma wrote back to me saying, I could never speak up, Charlie. Your note made me cry. He was upset at soccer graduation day. I tried all my best, but I realized nobody in this world can make and take mom and dad's place. But afterwards, everything was fine. He had so much fun. We went to a carousel, and we went picnic. So the offsite continued, and Saturday actually was an amazing day. At the end of Saturday, we went around, the 15 of us, talking and sharing one thing, whether it was a quote, a poem, a memorable moment from the offsite. And what I did, and I had no idea what I was doing, I took the note I had written in sheer anger on Friday, and I read it to the whole group. And as I read it, I found myself violently crying, and I couldn't stop myself crying. As soon as our round sharing was done, half of the 15 people came up to me individually and said, that was the most powerful leadership event I have seen. Do more of it. Another individual came to me and said, Charlie, why didn't you lead with vulnerability? And I was like, what do you mean? Isn't vulnerability showing weakness? Isn't it showing you that you don't know what you're doing? And keep in mind, to give you context, I've ruled for 20 years in our company, 17 of it with an iron fist to drive results. People were scared to disappoint and not drive the results. And he said, you should lead with vulnerability because it humanizes you. We all picked up very quickly, you're sharp, you're smart, you're very fast. But we weren't sure you were a person, someone who feels. And so this notion of leading with vulnerability is the lesson I learned that day. So, quick thing about NextJump. We have two goals. One is building a company. The other one is a more important goal, what we call the audacious goal. As a company, our goal is to build the next big tech company on the planet. And to do that, you have to get to 50 billion in minimum revenues. And we're on a trend in the next 5 to 10 years, 5 fast, 10 slow, to get there. But that goal is actually really important to feed into a much bigger goal. So I have a father who has spent his entire life trying to end world hunger through corn, through agriculture. And he has been encouraging me the whole time that there's nothing more important than getting people fed. Come join my platform. Help me make this happen. Well, I found a different way to finish what he was starting and hasn't been able to finish, which is what we call the audacious goal. We call it the Next Jump Project, which is to change the world by changing workplace culture. Think of where all the resources in the world sit today. All the capital, all the human capital, all the technology, for-profit companies. If you operated differently, if for-profit companies operated and part of their DNA was not 1%, but maybe up to 50% of their capital, human capital, technology is given to help others who are trying to fix the world, you would fix almost every problem in the world 10 times over. This is the change, the movement we want to make, and why the goal is important is we don't want to be a cute little story of a company that has good culture. We want to be a success story, and when people say, what was their secret sauce? We'll say it's our culture. And what about our culture? It's the fact that 50% of it is what we call better me, programs to make people grow and develop and make their cup overflow, so the other 50% is to help other people, others in need, locally, government, globally. That's how we built our company. So this question of who you really are, it comes down to character. Character is really who we are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But what happens is this, when you look at who you really are, you have to look at what happens either under stress or when your guard is down, when no one's watching, when there's no consequence or accountability, who you are when you're tired, when you've had a bad day, when the world isn't going as it should. That is the truth of who we are. Now, that can be a scary moment for most of us. But there's an individual I became very close friends with by the name of Jim Lear. He wrote a book recently called The Only Way to Win. It all is about character. And I love this insight Jim shared. Character is a muscle. And like a muscle, if you exercise it, you can grow it. And it can be strengthened, and just like muscles, when you don't exercise, it atrophies. You can change your character. You can become kinder, more humble, more confident, more vulnerable. This is something that's exercisable. So when you think about character, we always talk about this notion of imbalance. Because when things are not balanced is when things fall apart. Confidence and humility. When someone is overconfident, a score of 8 in confidence, but maybe a 2 in humility, by definition, that is arrogance. When someone is humble, maybe a score of 8, but then a score of 3 in confidence, that's by definition insecurity. And what ends up happening is at the point of stress or when your guard is down, an arrogant person makes an arrogant call, an insecure person makes an insecure call. It's consistently wrong, is what we found. This balance is the foundation. If you have a broken foundation, you can't build on it. Think of it as a game of tennis. Most of us are great at the forehand, and we suck at the backhand. So what do you do when the ball is coming to the backhand? You move over, and you hit it with a forehand. Well, any decent player will cream you because you can't get to the ball. We need to be able to play both sides. So we built programs. We built these things called character imbalance worksheets. They are pocket-sized worksheets that every employee got and practiced. What do they do? So, for example, in an hour meeting, the confident person learned to speak up last. They spoke up in the last 15 minutes of an hour meeting. The insecure person learned to speak up in the first 15 minutes. And everyone started practicing their backhand. My backhand was learning to be vulnerable. In fact, I practiced so much, my chief of staff, who couldn't be here with us today, said, "Charlie, you're crying too much in the company. Tone it down. You can over-practice." I want to show you 2 quick videos. One is my year in review. This is the Next Jump equivalent called 10X. And this is a video of a woman who presented at the company.
Hello everyone, I'm here to do my 10X presentation on culture. So here are my cultural contributions. Not a lot up there. I have to be honest, when cultural initiatives were first announced to the company, I pretty much dismissed them. I thought, this isn't going to lead to my own success. If this isn't going to help me grow as a salesperson and make a lot of money and get promoted, why am I going to do them? Then they got integrated into performance evaluations. And I said, you know what, I'm going to double down in revenue initiatives. And maybe people just won't notice that I'm paying attention to culture. In fact, I was put on these 2 initiatives. I actually didn't volunteer to be on them. But then something happened in Q3 of 2013 that forced reflection and reality. I was removed from the leadership group of the company, removed from MV21, voted by my peers and the most strategic leaders in the company. This was a crushing blow. I was not the success that I thought that I was. However, still being in the fixed mindset and not growing, this is what I thought. I said, oh, those newbies, they'll fail. I'll be back on probably 3, 6, 12 months tops. I'll get back on MP21. I just have to sit and wait. However, as the new group continued to thrive and I continued to flounder, I realized I needed to face the truth. I am selfish, and I put my success above anyone else's. In fact, I spent the past 10 years here trying to climb the ladder to success, trying to get to the top, and leaving others behind me. When I looked at the reality, I had left hundreds of next jumpers behind in my quest to get on top. So now that I've become self-aware, I'm doing deliberate practice. I'm doing deliberate practice through cultural initiatives to change my behavior. Practice to become a steward leader. But again, I have to be honest with this group. There's a driving force behind this. There's actually a fear that is instilled within me to actually make this come true. It's my 2 children. I have twins. They're 3.5 years old. And my biggest fear now in life is that they're going to develop the same backhand that I have. They're going to grow up to be selfish and not help other people before they help themselves. So now I'm looking at cultural contributions in a different light, with a purpose, to help develop others, because I know it's integral to my own growth. So old Jackie would have been, get back on MV21 ASAP. New Jackie, I'm trying to do little things to develop new leaders at Next Jump.
Jackie sat down with me, and she shared one of the most amazing stories. She said that at preschool, when she had a parent-teacher conference, her single biggest fear of being told that her kids are selfish. She went in paranoid what was going to come out. And the teacher said her daughter Lila is the most selfless kid they've ever seen in any class. She broke down in tears. And she shared the story, and by the way, for those of you who were in the event last night, Jackie got a 3. So she could have done better, but that was very good. Another quick video I'm going to share. This is someone much more senior. This individual actually was a CEO of a 1,000-person advertising agency. Came and joined us, and we ended up building a program called Personal Leadership Bootcamp. It's a boot camp where all new hires start in customer service. And they start for 3 weeks, and more important than the customer service job, they have a side project, Know Yourself. Self-awareness project, you have to describe it to an audience, and then you have to actually talk about the practice you've taken over 3 weeks to better yourself and change and get better at your backhand. You present this to a panel of next jumpers, senior next jumpers. They thumbs up or thumbs down, and if they don't give you unanimous thumbs up, you go back into boot camp for 3 more weeks. There is no end. It keeps going in 3-week increments, and every increment we offer $5,000 to leave the company, or you can go back into boot camp. And so this is David Burney, who went through 3 iterations of boot camp in his final presentation that made him pass.
So these past 3 weeks, in particular for me, I've had a heightened self-awareness and understanding on receiving a few doses of shocking feedback. I'm embarrassed of the last 3-week PLB checkpoint. Greg, the direct feedback that you provided literally left me speechless. After it, my only outlet was I needed to go for a run. What was so impactful was really not just your words, but the realization that you gathered these thoughts based on listening to so many people. I remember looking at Albert and trying to escape, but the nod of agreement really hit home. The harsh feedback became a starting point. Then the blow really hit when the realization came from Charlie. I can't imagine forgetting his words. He shockingly said to me, "David, you start as what appears to be a great TV show, but then it goes horribly wrong. It will not turn off, and it even worsens. It follows you around." I didn't want to believe it. But the "it follows you around" part, I knew was true. So it made me want to investigate if the rest of it was true. That led me to reach out to former coworkers, friends, and family. I needed more data points from people that have known me for many years. what I've become aware of is I'm a selfish listener. It felt horrible, a true failure point.
Congrats. You passed boot camp.
Jim Lehrer has become a very close mentor, and we co-mentor each other. And I love this phrase that he said. When there's no change in your people, you'll see no change in your business. But when you see transformational change in your people, you will see transformational change in your business. This is what happened for us. We had turnover because we hired so well. We have 5,000 applicants who apply a year, and we hire 10 a year. The quality is so high. An engineer that we bring in from MIT, Cornell, Georgia Tech, or even Carnegie Mellon offered a 100,000 base salary of 21 is offered 2 to 3 times that within 12 months. Our turnover shot up to 40%. But as our culture got stronger and better, we hit a tipping point. For the last 2.5, almost 3 years, it stayed at 1% and pretty much nothing. If you ask someone, do you like your job or do you love your job? Most people will say, I like my job. The word love is not reserved for job. And yet, when we surveyed employees now, over 90% say, I love my job. We started winning awards. We have a leadership award we got from McKinsey, from HBS. We had 6 different schools write case studies in the culture of the company, and just recently, a team of professors at Harvard University spent 3 years studying and understanding who are the best-run companies on this planet. And we got voted in the top 3. Huge honor. And then more importantly, the revenue growth in a company was growing 25% year over year for 5 years. It was such a clear average. For the last 2.5 years, it's been growing at over 100%, and it's accelerating. And this is something that I'll show you a little more detailed slide. There's a lot of detail here. Red was when it was bad, green is when it turns good. And what was interesting is this, the turnover shot down, but the revenue didn't show up for 6 to 9 more months. It's like going to the gym. If I want to look good, I go to the gym. I look in the mirror, I'm like, I look the exact same. In fact, the next morning I'm sore. It takes time. We give up too soon because it takes time to grow and change people. The best thing, we have this term, CEO minus 1, CEO minus 2. The notion that the company is run, the revenue of the company is run by a team 1 level or 2 levels away from the CEO. Today, they're 2 individuals. They're actually Indian. Engineers who graduated 6 years out of school. We trained them and made them leaders in the company. They today run the revenue of the company, and they're doing it 4 to 5 times better than when I ever did it. That is amazing. Now, the thing that I'll end with is this. A lot of times we have dilemmas. We don't know what to do. And we have this term in business, or just in life, called the North Star, the thing that guides you to do the right thing. And so we have a phrase in a company that says, build a company that will make your mother and father proud. So when in doubt, that's the North Star. Historically, our fathers are most proud of us when we achieve, when we graduate, when we get promoted. That's what fathers love. But our mothers are happiest when we are happy ourselves but are kind to others. And it's this combination that's important. Because how many times have you seen a mother who says, oh, my son is such a kind individual. He's so great. And the father says, he's a deadbeat. He lives in the basement. You need both to make your mother and father proud. As you make your decisions, think about it. If you sat down a year from now, 5 years, 10 years, and explained what you did to both your mother and father, would they look at you and say, wow, I'm so proud of you, son. I'm so proud of you, my daughter. When I look around the company today, years ago, people used to talk about care. NextJump cares about me. But the number 1 word I hear now is, I'm proud to be a NextJumper. And I found that word to be so much more powerful than care. Because when someone says, I'm proud to be part of a company, part of a team, they didn't hear it from themselves or inside. Some stranger typically has to acknowledge, you guys are doing great things. Most people say, I have no idea what NextJump does, but oh my God, I know how they help nonprofits, they help government, they help local, national, global, and they make you feel proud. However, if you lift the engine and look under the hood of the car and you see that it's a rotten engine, you wouldn't be proud. You need inside and outside to be there to be proud. So me changing as a leader changed everything for us. It changed our culture, it changed our results, it changed the whole company, it changed where we're going, it changed our future. Thank you.
Boutique Elf, leading the change.